when I've told you, you never knew it existed for 40 times. And we're at the 19th annual Oscar qualifying HollyShorts Film Festival. I kind of nailed it. I almost did. I'm your co-host, Indiana Underhill, cinematographer and co-founder of CFA. And we have one of our partners at CFA, Florian Anderson, who is actor, writer, director, producer, all of the good things in life. Sitting with me today are two great filmmakers from Into the Valley, that is at HollyShorts, and that is Emily Sandifer, the director, and we have TJ Dalrymple, who's the associate producer. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me do my spiel.
The director, co-producer, and editor, and then TJ is my partner in life, and also just dove in and helped every single department that needed help. And so we're like, you got to be an associate producer.
Love it. Yeah. That's the best way. And I know the partner in life on a set is the most supportive person to exist, and a film cannot be made without it. So.
From start to finish.
Exactly.
Watching me edit for hours and being very supportive.
Oh,
and all the things.
Yes. Well, we're happy you two could join us. You screened yesterday, is that correct?
Yep.
How did it go? It
went great. We had a great turnout. The block was amazing. It was a period piece block, and the films were really ambitious.
Cool.
So much good stuff in there.
Yeah. So with Into the Valley, it is a period piece. Can you tell me, we only have 10 minutes for an interview, but let's hear about it. What is the log line, or what's the film about?
Well, it's set in 1967. We shot it in Sacramento Valley, and it's actually based on a book that was also set in Sacramento Valley. It's called Into the Valley by Ruth Golm. And my writer, Emily Summers, who's also the lead actress and co-producer with me, who's not here today, she optioned the rights for the book in 2017. I came on board in 2021. And one of the first things that interested me about the film is that it is about a woman in 1967 who's sort of stuck in between the traditionalist ways of life and the hippie movement, because it's the summer of love. And she's trying to sort out, she's 30 years old and she's not married, and heaven forbid in 67, she's like, what am I doing with my life? Because I'm expected to do this, but I don't, she just doesn't really feel like that's her thing. So she wanders out in a Mustang into the Sacramento Valley and starts robbing banks, because it's the only way that calms her unaddressed anxiety with these gender roles.
We've all been there. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what do you do? You just go
on the weekends,
get some cash.
Just robbing banks.
Yeah.
And then she meets a young hippie along the way who sort of clashes with her, and that's essentially the gist.
This sounds like my favorite era of period piece. So this is fantastic. Now let's talk about, obviously you two are big supporters of each other. How did you find your other heads of department for this project? You mentioned your co-producer, correct? How else did you find your DP and production designer and bring them together?
John Pears was our cinematographer, and he was really essential as far as starting to build out that team. I had never done a film that had this much car work, and I needed someone that was really experienced with like car mounts and shooting with we shot with live drive. It wasn't a trailered Mustang, and he had done that all before, and he was an expert on that. So, and he had his entire crew that he'd worked with before, and they just knew what they were doing.
He brought Steve as well.
Yeah, he brought on our UPM, Stephen Gold, and he was a lifesaver on all of it. My first AD was actually my old photography assistant, because I'm also a photographer.
Cool.
I flew her out from Oklahoma because she'd since moved to Oklahoma, and I was like, I have to have you on this. So she was another one of my really good support systems. And then as far as the rest of the crew, half of it was Sacramento crew that we just got word of mouth from the Sacramento Film Commission up there, did interviews, and then a lot of the LA crew were people that we knew.
Wow, fantastic. TJ, what was your experience on set for this production?
Really just trying to tie up any loose ends. If anybody needed help, there's something going wrong, try to assist as best as I could.
The Mustang arrived on set with a horrible sound in its back end.
So
my goodness.
And we were
that was kind of for the whole pre-production of the film, finding the right team that would be able to supply the cars, period correct cars, having a car that's not too loud since they're doing the live drive, have the mics everywhere, can't have some like loud V8 or something like that in there, so they wanted something traditional, classic and quiet. And then the night before filming, do you remember his name that helped us out with
Anderson
the cars?
Automotive.
Anderson Automotive. He drove it over. It was a customer's car, and he gets there at night, and he's like, "There's something wrong. It's making a really loud noise. You want to take a ride with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go around the block for a second."
We should mention that TJ has a background.
I have a background in cars.
Oh, cool!
and
Wow, that's
stuff.
so great. That's so helpful.
Yeah, and so
it was
we
out of gear oil until the very
No gear
first
oil in
day
the
of
rear end.
shooting. He had it up on ramps, like in between shots, and he fixed it for us. So that was just
Wow.
one of the many things that he did for us.
it was just, it sounded like a UFO in the car.
Oh my goodness.
Wah, 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 wah. As it would speed up, it's like,
You're just like, oh, this is gonna be dubbed.
I was like,
if we can't figure this
something,
out.
But
Yeah.
the sound was saved,
Great.
and it was great.
Great.
So, yeah.
Was it your first collaboration with the actor-writer? Have you...
Yes. So I had done a photo shoot with her, and that's not really a collaboration, but that's how I met her. She just hired me to take some images of her, and then we got along so well that that's when she asked me, "Hey, do you know any female directors? I'm trying to get this film off the ground." And that's when I was like, "Well, hey, I also direct. It's been a while."
and did you know about the book before?
I didn't. No.
Okay.
So I found out about that through Emily Summers as well. And the author was an amazing help as well. So, like, she was here for the screening last night. She's been really wonderful throughout the whole process.
That's
Yeah.
great. I think one of the most important things that I actually don't think we've spoken about in any of our 37 interviews this week is the importance of advocating for yourself, because you met in a different role,
Right.
and so it's so incredible so it's just a compliment that I think it's just so great to advocate for yourself, saying, yeah, I direct as well,
Yeah.
let me take a look,
Yes.
because I think a lot of the time, especially as women, we tend to either pass off things or try and connect people or trying to kind of do some sort of taking care of others, which is
Yes.
also a theme in the film, I imagine, of her
Yeah.
trying to fight with that. So I really love that spoke to you so much and connected. So
Yeah.
just a compliment.
you.
Now thanks, Jack. I have Jack behind camera, always giving us a time card, because if not, I tend to
Right.
gush too much.
Us as well.
Yeah. With the directing style that you had to have, because it was the live drive, were you tucked in behind a seat, or were you in another car with
We were
a
in
monitor?
another car.
Okay,
Yeah, we were
cool.
in a follow car with John, the DP, Steve, who was driving, and then our Robert Rodriguez, who was the focus puller, first AD.
Okay, and were you
First AC.
awesome? And were you stopping the car when you called cut, or were you kind of over a walkie giving notes and they
We were
just kind of
doing,
kept going?
I was doing direction over a walkie, and we were just trying to do it as fast as possible. We were doing really long takes, and it worked out really well. Luckily, the actors were really well rehearsed. They knew all their lines, and it was fantastic.
What were the biggest things that surprised you about doing such long takes in the performance of the types of notes that you had to give?
Ooh, wow. I'm like, how do I answer that in probably 30 seconds?
Take your time, you're fine.
I think a lot of it was, some of it's technical as far as like, hey, you need to sort of cheat one way or the other. We need to make sure that we can read your performance. But luckily at that point, they were already so tuned into those characters that the notes were very minimal. It was basically just like fine-tuning little intentions here and there.
Wow.
And it was pretty great.
And what are the biggest takeaways that you both want the audience to have from this film?
Well, it is a contained short film, but it's also a proof of concept.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest things, is that it has to function as a proof of concept, especially for Emily when she goes out and tries to find investors. Well, not tries to find investors, but finds investors for the feature. So one of my goals was to leave the audience with enough questions unanswered that they'd actually want to see what comes next. So there's a lot of little nuances in the film where you're like, well, I think that there's bigger themes. I might not quite understand everything. And you're like, great. Well, then
Yeah.
give us some money for the feature.
Yes, always, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And TJ, from the moment that Emily signed on to this project and now looking at the end project on the big screen, what surprises you? What are you surprised by?
I'm always surprised by the work ethic that she has.
Cool.
Taking on way more than she was ever asked. It's, just wearing a lot of hats, diving
Yes.
in, seeing things to fruition, and completing projects. That's like always what's the best,
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you guys could sit down with us today for
you.
Into the Valley. I look forward to seeing it. Unfortunately, they screened last night. We can only get them in today, but you can go to bitpixtv.com in order to still watch it for the remaining days of the festival, and I think possibly a few days after. Thank you so much, Emily and TJ.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Thank you. Good
And
to meet you.
so
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Great. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of the Cinematography for Actors podcast. Follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast to keep up to date on new episode releases. We will be live through August 20th here at HollyShorts Film Fest. If you're here, drop in and say a little hello at the VIP lounge. We also want to thank our sponsors, Apogee, Film Tools, Roscoe, Lightstone Rentals, Canon, and First Mile Tech. As a special gift to you listeners, we partnered with We Make Movies to get you a discount on comprehensive production insurance packages. Use code CFA23 on your intake form for 10% off your quote by visiting wemakemovies.org/insurance.
If you missed any of our live streams, you can watch all of our interviews on our YouTube channel, Cinematography for Actors. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at Cinematography for Actors. You can also catch us in a more formal setting on Monday, August 14th at Japan House for a panel discussion on the importance of bridging the gap between talent and crew. You can get 20% off of your ticket purchase by using the code HSFF2023CFA at checkout.
Thanks.